Okay, so in this video we are going to explore G-code and do a little review of what happened today in class, and this will be there for you guys to brush up to get through the assignment. The assignment I'm talking about is CNC G-code coordinates. Okay, you're going to paste your code into a Google Doc when you are done, along with the screenshot that shows the simulated path that traces your initials, and that's what we do on this site, ncviewer.com. So just go to ncviewer.com and this window will open up. Okay, and when you open it up, it should look like this. So I'm going to go reload it so you guys can see. Alright, we're going to be careful about all the things, all these options. Okay, do not check this box. Don't let that one get selected or it'll do something different. We'll talk about that in class. But click in here and you want to delete all of that. So if you press Control A, it'll select everything, and you can just hit backspace and delete everything. Okay, so this environment that we're looking at is a simulator for what's called G-code. Okay, so we're going to type in our G-code over here, and it will give us a path that's called the tool path, and it will be the path that our tool would make to make some geometry happen in whatever it is that we're cutting out. Maybe it would be metal or wood or some other kind of material. So right now, we're going to start off our code with the code G90. So everybody should type in that. Okay. What G90 means is that's absolute coordinates. Okay, so if I don't put G90 in there, it basically, the computer won't know where the origin is. Okay, so we want to tell it that we're doing G90, and what that means is that we're going to put a point called the origin, that's 0, 0, 0, and that this point is a special point that will never move. Alright, so the origin stays put in one place, and every other point has a name relative to the origin. Alright, so that's what G90 does. Alright. Also notice if you hit this little box, it'll make things disappear, so just hit that to get it back. Now if you hit the settings in here, I did notice earlier that you could get the font size to go up, so you can make that a little bigger. I probably should have done that in class today so you can see them. So I'll try to make the code a little more legible here. 24 might be good. So we got G90, okay? The next thing we'll do is G20. Okay, what G20 does is it tells the computer that we are measuring in inches. We're using imperial units. All right. There is a G-code file that I tried to give my students. We took down a couple of notes. Okay, you don't have to know all of these. All right, I'm just showing you guys some of the basics, most important. So we focused on the first 4 of these G-codes. All right, and there's a lot more different things that we talk about. There's tool codes and other things. All right. We won't be using any of these other ones really, okay, but we did use G90 to show that we're doing absolute programming. And so that just means, you know, G90 means that the coordinates are going to work the way that they do in a math class, basically, the way that we do it every day. Alright, the next code that I'm going to teach you, again, you guys know this is called G-code, so you have a lot of codes that start with G, okay? This is 0, 0, so this is called a rapid traverse code. So what G00 does is this makes the tool move to a location, but it doesn't really set the spindle speed for anything. So you have to watch out for this, right? So this is not really the way we're supposed to cut material, all right? So G00 gives us like an orange line, and so in this line, all I want you guys to do is put X 0, Y 0, and then we'll do Z1, okay? And we can say plot. And you should be able to see what this does in a second when it makes that happen. Right now we can't see because the blue is on top of itself. So we got this, okay? So now what we're going to do is add another line. We're going to add G00. And now what I want you guys to do is do X1, Y1, and then let's plot it. And I want you guys to see how this is supposed to be 3 dimensions. So you guys really have to imagine this a little bit and you know, we're not looking at a flat plane right now. This is supposed to be 3D, right? So we imagine this blue line as coming up, you know, standing up like a tower or something like that. Okay, and this whole surface would be flat like the planet Earth, okay? And this is just going up from there. So notice it puts us here at this orange point. So now what we've done is we've gone over this point 1, 1. Okay, what I'm going to do is now change the Z to a negative value, okay? So I'm going to go G, and we're going to hit 0, 1. Okay, what this would do is, this is going to do a linear cut. Okay, so this is going to make a blue line now. And this would be the way that we control the machine when we're trying to actually cut things. Okay, So 0, 0 just moves you around really fast, whereas 0, 1 is meant to cut at like a slower speed. What we're going to do is put z negative 0.1. Okay, and then I hit plot. Now look at what happened. This has gone a little bit below the plane. So now we're imagining that it's inside of the thing that we're trying to cut. Okay, so now our line is right here. All right, the next thing that we want to do is move to another point. So then I'll tell you that G01, if I was to put in X1 and then Y2, it's going to move from here up here to the point where we have those coordinates X of 1 and Y2. So let's go ahead and see what happens when I plot it. You can see the blue line is created going here. Okay? Now if I wanted to go back up, then I would say G01, and then I'll make that Z 0.1, and if I plot it, notice it doesn't update the code until you press the button. And now look at this. We get it right there. Okay, so we can see something that we're looking at, and it's perfect. The next problem is to actually do the assignment that we have for us today, right? So your assignment was to create the code to draw your initials in that simulator that we have, okay? And we're going to use this little boundary to do that, okay? So we do not want our initials to go into the yellow space. We want it to stay inside of the boundaries, okay? So I can highlight it in red right now. We want to keep it inside of this boundary, okay? Now, we should imagine that the drill bit that we're going to use is going to have a width, okay? So a few things we're going to talk about right now. I was asking my students when we first looked at this thing, how far apart are these 2 points, right? If that's A and that's B, what is the distance of AB? What's AB equal to? All right, well, you guys got to see that these points are all 1/16 away. So that's 0.0625. In other words, it's 1/16 of an inch, okay? That's why we use the G20 code to put it into imperial units, okay? Because the British Empire is the one, right? So we call it imperial units that spread inches around the world in their system and their language. So it's called the imperial measurement system because it's like an old legacy system that we have from hundreds of years ago, right? So imperial units, this is why we have to learn these numbers in our country, right? They're very special and we use them all the time. So get to know them, all right? 1/16 is the distance between those, right? Now, what I want you guys to imagine then is that if I have a drill bit, okay, that we're going to have come in here, right? And if I put the center point there, the drill bit is a circle, right? And so if I was to move it from here to here, I want you guys to realize it wouldn't cut a line, right? Because it has a width, right? So if I was to cut that, it would actually take away all this material, right? All of that would go away. And so I want you guys to think about the center line of your tool. Don't ever let it delete stuff that's outside in the shaded area. You got me? Want to make sure that it stays in there. All right. So if I was to have the tool follow this path of a center line, right, then it would take away all of this, right? Because 1/16 is 1 square, okay? But if I have a drill bit that's 1/8, then 1/8 is 2 squares. You got me? So that's the idea that we need here. And to draw your letters, we want to use points, and we want to use specific points, okay? We only want to use lattice points, okay? So that means we only want to use points where these grid lines cross, okay? So I'm going to start off by showing an example of what we're supposed to do, okay? Again, I'm using this grid line right here, this grid point that has an x of 0.3125 and a y of 0.3125. And in this case, we'll call this point A, okay? It's the first point. Then I'll go up here to draw my letter M. Then we'll go right about there, and I'll connect these all with straight lines, okay? So in class, when I taught you guys how to do this, I put a rule in where the first time you guys were only supposed to use straight lines, and then after I taught you guys how to use arcs, you guys were maybe supposed to go back and change your first letter if you needed a place to put an arc, right? So we have our letter M. Notice it's all inside of the boundary. Okay, now I just want to label all the points in like a sequential order, right? In order that it would take me to draw them, right? So I got A, Okay, and then I wouldn't need to stop until I get all the way to B, right? So you only have to represent the points where the pen would have to stop to draw it. Okay, so now to get from B to C, I have to stop there, and then we got to turn around and go to this point that we would call D, and then we call this point right here E. Okay, and then what happens now is we go label all of their coordinates. Okay, so I would get the first coordinate of A. Okay, and we can see that the coordinate of A, as we saw earlier, was 0.3125. So I'm going to write X 0.3125. And then I'm going to go get my Y coordinate. Okay, my Y coordinate is also 0.3125, so I'm going to put 0.3125 there, right? Okay, then I get the next point. I go look at B. Okay, B has an X coordinate of 0.3125. Okay, again, look, the X coordinate didn't change because it only went up and down. It didn't go left and right. The Y coordinate, though, is 1.6875. So that one did change, okay? So I'm going to go write 1.6875. Okay, and then I'll continue the process, right? We see that C right here has a 0.625. Okay, you can put the 0 or not. It won't matter. The computer won't care if it's there or not. Okay, and then the Y coordinate of C is 1.25. So I could write 1.25. Okay, again, you can put the 2 zeros, and it won't matter if you put them or not. The computer won't really care. Okay, and then D, that's 0.9375. And then we have to get over to the Y coordinate, which again is the same as B, that is 1.6875. Okay, and then our E coordinate is 0.9375 because that just went down one. And then my Y coordinate is 0.3125. Okay, so having all these coordinates down is very important. Once I have them written down, my job is much easier because I can just go look at them and use these numbers to complete my code. All right. One thing I want to mention is that the letter M doesn't really have any special challenges, right? I don't have to pick up my pen any other kind of way to draw it, okay? We can do it all in one motion, okay? Unlike the letter A, where I need to go like here and then I have to pick up my pen and then go move over here and then connect that line, right? It's a little different. So every letter comes with its own challenge. And since you guys do know how to draw all these letters very well, I'm not too worried about you guys understanding the logic behind that. What you'll probably mess up is just the numbers, right? So let's get in here and we'll go start up the way our code should look, okay? So all of these numbers I had was just me training you guys in a little bit of basic techniques, all right? So right here, let's go add, let's change this to 0.1. Usually I use 0.1. Okay, and if I plot it, you guys should see that it goes a little closer, all right? Now look, guys, you see that the tool is a lot closer to the plane. All right, so now we got X, and we're going to go make this my first point, which is A. And again, if I go look at what I have, my first point A is 0.3125 for both coordinates, right? So what I want to do is make sure I go above that point. So I'm going to put X and Y 0.3125. Okay, you can have a space and I think it won't matter. I believe it doesn't care if you put a space or not. I usually don't put them. We want the lines to be kind of tight so you can see them all at once. Okay, so now we're actually floating in the air above 3125. Notice that we never changed the Z coordinate. So in this program, if you don't change the coordinate, it will not change it. You have to change it, otherwise it's going to stay the same. So now that we're above the place where we want to punch in, as I was saying in class, I want to punch into my thing that we're working on, okay? And so that means I'm going to do Z minus 0.1, okay? When I do negative, that makes sure that I'll be inside the surface of the work material that we're trying to work on. Okay, so in this case, look what happened. It shows me the blue line going straight down. Okay, so now I have punched in to point A. If you understand what I mean, at this point the drill bit has gone above this and it's literally drilled into point A. So now that I'm inside the material, I can say, hey, I want you to go up to B, and then I want you to go to C, and then D, and then E, and then we'll be done with the letters, so we'll come out of the material. Okay? So right now we're going to do G01, and then X and Y, and the coordinates that I'll put here will be the coordinates of B. the x coordinate is the same, and the y coordinate was 1.6875, right? If I hit plot, look at what we get. We get this little vertical line. Okay, now I want to get my next point. So we'll call this x 0.625, and we'll get y 1.25. Okay, if I hit that, we see we get a point right here. It's in the middle. All right, the next thing we do is we're going to hit enter to make a new line. And then G01, okay, I've gone from A to B to C, so now I want to send it to point D. Okay, and if you guys see where I'm getting these again, I have my list of coordinates. So 0.9375 for X. Okay, and then Y was 1.6875. And if I plot, you can see it goes to the next place. Okay? Now I just want to go down to the last one. So our X coordinate will be 0.9375. Notice again, X will not change because we're just going straight down. Okay? And now this is going to change to 3.125 or 0.3125 so that we get here. Okay, notice I'm done with the letter M. So you might think, okay, I could go try starting my next letter. But notice what's going to happen if I go do that. Like if I say, okay, now let's go over to like X equals 1.4 or something like that, and I plot it, look what happened. It's going to draw this little extra line on our material, which is probably not something we wanted, right? We don't want our letters to be connected. So when you get to the end of a letter, you can't do that. When you get to the end of a letter, you have to punch out of the material, and to do that, we hit 0.1. Okay, so I just make it positive, and that brings us up. Okay, so I would say now that I punched in, we went to point A, right? Punched into point A. We cut, we do a linear move, right? That's what G01 is, linear interpolation, and notice that makes the blue lines. This is the one where we can control the speed of the machine. I'll teach you guys how to do that eventually. For now, we don't need to. I'm more worried about the program flow and the points and everything, right? So again, this is how you do linear interpolation. This is how you do a straight line connecting our dots, right? So I hope you guys can kind of wrap your head around the idea, because really the process was not only supposed to have straight lines, okay? I taught you guys to do straight lines in class because we had to start somewhere. But after that, we're supposed to add 3 arcs somewhere to our letters, okay? So you can pick where you want them to be, but it is, you know, kind of a creative thing. Everyone's going to have slightly different code. Their initials are all different. So it's going to be not that easy to cheat on this one, right? Because there's so many different ways to get your letter. And I heard even people talking about ChatGPT can code, and it's like, well, all right, you figure out how to get it to do all the exact precise numbers, right? I'm not sure you guys will be able to put it in the right words, okay? But it might work. And if you do get ChatGPT to do this, come show me. Come tell me about it. You won't get in trouble, right? But I doubt it, okay? That would be a really good side quest for you to try to do. So, again, we have to do some arcs, okay? So let's try to learn how to do one basic kind of circular arc. What we'll do is we'll take a look at a new page, right? Let's just talk about this really quick. Okay, so let's say that I have a point A and another point B over here, and let's say that they have like the same y coordinate. So let's say that this is x1, y1, all right? And let's say that this point over here is x2, y1, sorry, let's say x3, y1. Alright, so if that's x3, but this is x1, then we know the distance, right, from here to here, the distance must be 2, right? So the purpose of what I'm trying to teach you guys right now is how to draw a circular arc, okay? So keep in mind that these two things are 2 units apart, okay? Now, when we draw a circular arc, let's say that I want to draw a circular arc that starts at A, right, so it starts here, and it ends at B. Alright? Now if I want to do that, there's 2 ways to go, right? I could do what's called clockwise and go this way, or I could do counterclockwise, which would be going that way. Okay, so it matters which way we say that we want to go. Do we want to go counterclockwise or clockwise? However, there's more than one circle that goes through 2 points. I could have a circle like this, right? Or maybe I have a much bigger circle that happens to just pass through that, like a little tiny piece of it, right? So there's more than one circle that goes through 2 points, right? It's not that simple, right? So there's not only one circle that we can find. So we have to be really specific and tell the computer where is the center of the circle that you want it to go, okay? We'll tell the computer where we want the circle to end, but we have to tell it where the center of that circle is. If I wanted it to draw the blue circle, right, this blue arc, this one, this clockwise one, then I would have to tell it where the center of that red circle is, or it's not going to draw it the right way, okay? So that's what I want to try to show you guys how to do. So let's see the way this works. Okay? So let's go back to the situation we had. We have our point A, which is x1, y1. Okay, I'm using the same G-code notation. And then we got x3, y1. Okay? So where would the center of this line A be? It would happen to be right there. Yeah, the center would be there. Okay, and if the whole thing is 2, then that means there's 1 here and 1 on that side, right? Like if it's 1 inch, then it's 1 inch on the other side too, right? So that's the center, all right? And again, like I told you guys, this is the start point and this is the end point, okay? So I'm going to try to show you guys how do I do it. We'll look at the code and we'll understand what I want to do, okay? Let's say that I want to make a circular arc that's centered right here, okay? So that means that my circle has to have a radius of 1, so that means if I go up, that should also be 1. So let's try to make that look good. And let's say that we got a circle like that, okay? So this is my circular arc. Now tell me, I just wanted you guys to imagine it. That was a start at this one, and it ends here. So that was clockwise, yeah? Okay, so how do I draw a clockwise arc that starts at A and ends at B? Okay? Well, all I have to do is use the code that works for clockwise. The code for clockwise arcs is G02. And then I have to tell it the endpoint's coordinates. The endpoint is this one, x3, y1. Okay, but there's one more problem. I can't only tell it that. We have to give it the coordinates of the center of the circle that I wanted to draw. And that is what's different, okay? We do this in a special way, okay? So the I and J are used to contain this information, okay? And this is the way it works. What goes here, okay, is the directions that I would have to do. Basically, how do I have to change this coordinate to get to the center? What do I have to do? Do I have to go up, down, left, or right? Okay? In this case, to get from A to the center, I have to go 1 unit right. You see that? Go 1 unit right. 1 inch right in this case was our unit. And so what that means, think about it, right? If it was left, then I would have a negative number for I, right? But this is going right. So instead of having a negative number, I have to put a positive number, okay? Now the number that I put for J is going to tell me how much I have to go up or down to get to the center from the start point, okay? But you tell me I go 1 unit right and then I don't have to go up or down. I don't go up or down at all. So that tells me that the J is 0. Okay, so this is your first example. I know that's kind of a lot to see, but let's go put that into our G code and we'll see what happens when we look at it. Alright, so now I'll erase all of that. Okay, and again, if we see the points that I have, we were starting at x1, y1. So that's going to be the first thing I do, as I go to x1, y1. Okay, and now if we replot this, we can see that I'm over here. Okay, now what I'm going to do is punch in. Okay, so we got z, negative 0.1. Okay, so that punches in. See the little blue line, and it went down. Okay, so now I'm punched in to x1, y1. Now what I want to do is I want to do a circular arc, okay? And I want it to end, right? It starts at x1, y1, and we want it to end at x3, y3, right? x3, y1, okay? So since I want it to end at x3y1, I type in x3y1. Okay? The one big idea for y'all today is to figure out the I and the J. Okay? To figure out what goes there for I and J, we just have to use our relative coordinates, right? So again, we just give directions. How do I get to the center from the start? That's all we put in I and J. How do I get to the center from the start point of our arc, okay? I take 1 unit right, so this is a positive 1. Let's go check that out. I put positive 1 right here, and 0. And if I hit plot, we get a perfect half circle. It starts here, and it ends exactly where we want it, okay? What if I wanted to get a quarter circle? What if I wanted to stop right there? Okay? Well, then I'd have to put the coordinates to that point, right? So I mean, think, where would that be? What would the coordinates of that be? All right, if I want my arc to just be a quarter circle, so now let's say I want to just draw this part. Okay? Well, think about it. This is also 1, right? So this is the point right here in the middle is x2, y1, all right? That's the point x3, y1. They all got y1 because they're all on this line, right? Okay, but if I go up 1 unit, because again, look, it's 1, that gives me that this is the point x2 and y2. So if I want to draw a circular arc that's a quarter circle, all I have to go do now, I don't even have to change the I and J. I just have to change this thing. So if I change that to 2, look at what happens. I get the other circle. All right, that was wrong. We got to change this to 2, right? Sorry about that. So I changed to 2, now we get the quarter circle we were talking about. I forgot to change this point again. We have to put the end point there, and the end point of the blue arc is x2, y2. So a second ago I had that as a 3, change it to a 2. All right? And again, we plot it, and we get this quarter circle. All right? So what if I went counterclockwise? What if I told it to start there and go 0, 3? Can you guys try to predict what you think would happen? Okay, it's still going to connect this point to that point. That's what it's going to do. It's going to connect them with the circle, but it is just going to go the other way. All right, so this goes the other way around. So you see, it's kind of a big deal whether or not you say clockwise or counterclockwise, because one of them is going to be the complete opposite. All right, so again, we'll put that back to G02. Okay? So what I had in mind for you guys is what you guys had to do is to represent in your coordinates, when you do your names, you guys had to use 3 arcs. Okay, so you were not allowed to only use, you weren't supposed to only use, what's the word? I gotta erase all of this stuff so you guys can see the whole thing. You guys were not supposed to just use straight lines. Okay, what you guys need to do is find 3 arcs that you guys could pull in there. So I'll try to show you guys a couple ways that we could do some things. And the video is getting a little longer already, but the good news is that it's all in one place now. All right, so again, I have my first initial is M, so I'm already in there. This is complete, okay, and then you guys would start off with your paper kind of looking like this. Then you got A, we got B, we got C, we got D, and then you get your next initial, all right? I messed up, of course. I forgot to label that point in the middle as C, so this was C, that was D and E as before, all right? What a lot of students have found that they'll start numbering them over again. So let's say that we wanted to do G or something like that. Some people are basically restarting their letters again and starting over at A. Other people might say that their first point is F or something like that. So I'll show you guys what I have in mind to do a circle right here. Let's say that I want that black point to be the center of a circular arc. So I'm just going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right. And then if I go this way, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, I could see that that's not going to go far enough, right? So if I want to go 10, I'm going to have to move this point all the way over here, okay? So look at what I'm trying to tell you. All right, if I go here, now I can count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And if I go this way, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. See that? Okay. That's probably still too much because, like I was telling you guys, our drill bit should not go out of bounds. So I can't help but try to avoid breaking my own rule. All right, so we're going to have to put this right here, and this sounds about right. All right. So if I take 10 steps this way, 10 steps this way, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, there we go. It's a little unbalanced, okay, but bear with me for the purposes of this activity. All right, again. All right, we're good. So this arc, right, if I want to start here, like I was trying to tell you, some students are calling this F, all right, but I think it actually does make a lot of sense to just go ahead and call this new point A, but it's just A of the new letter, okay? So it's up to you, whichever way you want to do. All right, F would make perfect sense because we already have an A. So if you don't really want to get confused, that you could do that too, all right? Just remember that you got to pick up at the next letter, all right? So tell me, I got this point F that's named, and I want this arc to go over here. You guys don't know, my middle initial is G, and in my head right now, I'm imagining a semicircle with like a little line like that to do a G. So that means I want my arc to start at F and to go up to here to point G, all right? And then it's going to pass through everything like that. How would I code this, right? You guys think you could help me code that right now? Let's go code this. So we want to code the F point as the start point, and G is the end point. So our coordinates of F are 0.1825 and then 375. So let's go. All right, the first thing that we'll do is get rid of all of these things. And then we'll go look again. I believe the X is 0.8125. All right, so we got X is 1.8125. All right, and then for Y, make sure we don't mess that up. Our Y coordinate is 375.375. Okay, so now we plot just so you guys can see that something different's happening. Okay, so now I'm above the point, right? So at this point, I want to go punch in. Okay, we always try to punch in on its own line. I try to do that because I think it's easier to see when we're going up and down and then notice what's happening. Okay, so again, if we plot, look at this. We punched in, so now we're below the surface and we're inside the material that we're trying to cut. So at this point, I want to do my arc, right? I have the start point, I'm already in. I punched into F. So I want to go to G with a circular arc. So my coordinates at G are 1.8125 and 16875. So we're going to do G. Is it 02 or 03? What do you guys think about that for a second while we're writing, okay? For X, as we said, our X coordinate is going to be the same, so 1.8125. But our Y coordinate is going to be 1.6875. Okay, and if we plot it, nothing. Oh, what happened? See, we forgot to put the I and J. So you always have to put the I and J to show us what that's going to be. Okay, so let's go figure out what happened. Okay, we have to figure out, we have to tell the computer how do I get to the center of the arc? How do I get to the center from the start? Okay, if I was at the start, what would I have to do? Well, I don't have to go left and right. I don't have to go left and right at all. So that means that my I will be 0. Okay, I have to go up from F. So that means this is going to be positive. I already know I'm going up. Now we just have to count how many steps. Well, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Don't be afraid to count them, okay? Well, it's 10, and we know each one of them is 0.0625. So, I mean, little 6th grade math review, right? If you multiply something times 10, the decimal point moves 1 to the right. So you could do that in your head. It's 0.625. So our J value is 0.625. And this is going to be the value that we want to go put into our code. And our arc will be complete, okay? So you do have to have some complete thoughts when you're doing this stuff. Okay, and if we hit our plot, we get a semicircle. All right, you see that? Now, at this point, I would tell it to maybe go up and then figure out what I'm going to do for the rest of it. But this might be able to be a letter C or the beginning of a letter G or something like that. I don't want to give you guys too much hints because I know the more letters I do, the more chance that I have for you guys to copy or like come do something crazy like that and steal all the letters. So again, think about what you have to do. Okay, when you're drawing a letter, you have to think about when do I have to pick my pen up. So really quick in the video, we'll talk about this and then I'll cut it off, right? if I'm doing the letter A, right, there's some important points in the letter A, right? I go A, then I go B, and then I go C. But if I was going to draw this letter, I want to make sure that I go up, all right? So I have to punch in to A, right? I punch in. I'm in the material. Then I go to B, and then I go to C. But what do I have to do after I get to C? I have to punch out. If I don't punch out, okay, and punch out is when the Z is positive 0.1, and punch in is when the Z is negative 0.1, all right? So now we got D and E right there. So since I punch out, now I go rapid over D, and then I have to punch into D again, all right? So I punch in, and then we go over here to E with G01, right? That's our straight line cut. And then after I get to E, I punch out again. Get it? Okay, and that'll make you draw your line the way that you need to. So I might make another video if I keep getting questions about this. But this is kind of like the introduction to CNC and G-code and everything. So I put it all in one spot. I might do a special video just to cover circular arcs and maybe solve some specific letters. But I definitely won't do all of them. All right, so good luck. I hope this helps you out a little bit.